What's up, everyone? Welcome on back to another episode of the Jimmy Mullen podcast. This is going to be the final episode of 2022. The year has finally come to an end. You're most likely seeing this on New Year's Eve. That's when I at least planned on putting it out. Maybe it'll go up on the 30th, depending on how long it takes me to edit this. But hello, everyone. Welcome back. I hope 2022 was good for all of you. I will say this year, for me in particular, was very important in regards to self-growth and learning and getting back into the swing of things, stuff I used to do, growing up. I went a couple years without really making content, but this year was like my full swing back into it, and I've had such a blast this past year doing this podcast. I went into depth a lot on a lot of that stuff in the 1 year anniversary episode number 53, which, by the way, if you have not checked that one out, I highly suggest you do so. We talked about the year as a whole and all the episodes I did and all sorts of stuff like that, and I gave a little sneak peek into the future. And if you also haven't seen it, I just put out a new episode of the podcast on Christmas Eve with my good friend Danny Casal, aka Cool Man Coffee Dan. That one was a lot of fun to do. It was amazing getting to talk to him about all the stuff he's been doing the last couple of years, living out in California and building his brand and all sorts of stuff like that. If you're into his content, if you've seen it and you want to learn more about him and all sorts of stuff like that, be sure to go check out that episode of the podcast. I'm really proud of it. It came out really well, and everyone's been enjoying it from people I've been talking to and all sorts of stuff like that, and I've gotten a lot of great feedback on the anniversary episode as well. So, if you haven't checked those out, make sure you do so. But anyway, this is the final episode of the year, and similarly to what I did at the end of 2021, as I started the podcast at the very end of 2021, I put out 3 episodes by the end of the year, and the third and final was a roundup of the year. This one will be different, as I'm not going to take an entire segment just to talk about Marvel. I'm going to mix it in with everything else, because generally this year, I actually didn't tune into all of the new stuff. There's actually quite a bit that I missed because not only one, I was a little lazy, but also I had a lot of focus on this, and this took up a lot of my time in regards to getting guest episodes and all that. But with the new year coming up, I want to make a big focus for this podcast in regards to seeing new stuff and talking about it. I'm going to do an episode at the end of every month. That's the plan for right now, to talk about things like that. And then when like a new movie comes out and I want to do a whole discussion on it, I'll make an episode during the weekend of that movie's release. So there's a lot to look forward to for 2023. But I wanted to round up everything in regards to the stuff that I consumed in 2022 in regards to movies, music, television, gaming, all sorts of stuff like that, things that I love. So we're going to do that today, similar to what I did last year. So this is the cool stuff of 2022. Like I said, this year was pretty light in regards to new content I consumed compared to 2021, as there was a lot more focused on creating near weekly content. And movie theater visits also are pretty expensive nowadays. Also, the fact that I'm working and shit like that, it's just not feasible to see every single new release in theaters. Some of them I waited till streaming. Some of them I just haven't watched at all, but I'm going to make them a big focus going into 2023 as well. I have a whole list of movies I missed, so I'm going to list those off later on. But yeah, we're going to talk about all sorts of stuff like that today. So to get things started, I wanted to touch on some video games that I played a little bit, or a lot of these I haven't beaten the game per se, but I did play a good amount or a bit, and I wanted to give my thoughts on what I did play, because I've always been a fan of video games, mostly Nintendo, but I just don't play video games like that anymore. It's just not something that I spend a lot of my time doing. I'm more of a movie watcher nowadays, or a show watcher. But I do dabble in video games. Like, I play a lot with my friends. I do some, like, when a new single player game comes out, like a new like Nintendo game or something, I try it out at least, and I give my thoughts on whatever it may be that I want to talk about in regards to whatever game it is. But there were a couple games that I did dabble in this year that I wanted to give my thoughts on. So to start out, let's talk about MultiVersus, the fighting game released by Warner Brothers that has a bunch of Warner Brothers properties thrown in there. It's like a Smash Brothers like game. And there was a lot of hype surrounding this in regards to the announcement because it was like, wow, it's because we just had gotten the new Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl game, and I have not played that game since I touched it for the first time. I'm not gonna lie. But I actually did play a good amount of MultiVersus during the closed alpha era, as well as the first couple weeks of the open beta, and when the game officially released. And I gotta say, I kind of stopped playing the game, and I think a lot of people can agree with me on that. Not to say the game is bad, it's just that, I don't know, I think the controls are a bit too button mashing-y, if that's a word. It's not. There's way too much reliance on button mashing. I think that's a better way to say that. Yeah, I don't know. I just wasn't like too invested in the game, like in regards to I felt like I was just mashing buttons the whole time, and I would either win or lose, and maybe I just wasn't good. I don't know, but I feel like with Smash Brothers in comparison, you can be very strategic with that, especially if you really know how to play. MultiVersus isn't exactly the same, and I'm not expecting it to be exactly like Smash Brothers. They're going to take their own liberties, but yeah, I don't know. I liked it from when I was playing, and I loved the idea of the roster having all sorts of IP, and they've added a bunch of characters since the launch. Some of them I just haven't been able to try out. Rick and Morty got added. Gizmo and Stripe from Gremlins, Black Adam, and Marvin the Martian have all been added since I stopped playing. I did play a bit as LeBron James because I thought that was absolutely hilarious that they threw him in there because he's a real person. And all these other characters are fictional. Like, you got the DC characters like Batman and Superman, and then you got Cartoon Network characters like Finn and Jake from Adventure Time. You got Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, but he's like the Ultra Instinct Shaggy meme, where he's got like moves like a Dragon Ball Z character. It's pretty funny. But yeah, I think it's fun for what it is, but it's not something that I'm going to continue to go back to. I mean, I'll probably check it out when like new characters drop, but like, I don't know. I just don't see myself continuously playing this game. But what I can say is that I will absolutely go back to the game when they add Ben 10 and Generator Rex. So if y'all can do that, that would be fantastic. I've heard that Ben 10 is the most requested character out of everyone in the entire list of most wanted characters. So I would hope that they're making him a priority. So yeah, once they add Ben 10, I'll be set. Also, Generator Rex as a little bonus. Maybe even some Symbionic Titan representation, and then I'll be good. Up next, another big release this year was Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. I actually, unfortunately, have not played through the entirety of it. I've played through episodes 1 through 7, and the reason that I haven't beaten it is because I wanted to really invest in episodes 8 and 9, as those have not been Lego-fied up until the release of this game. And I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to do it very soon. But from what I have played, and I played a good amount of the game, I think it's really fun. It definitely takes a lot of getting used to, especially since I haven't played a new Lego release, I think since like Lego Marvel Superheroes in like 2013 or whenever that game came out. I think that was the last like new Lego game that I played. At least that I have like fond memories with. I think I touched like the Lego Movie video game when that came out in like 2014, but I didn't really play that one very much. That was more of my brother. But by that point, we weren't really buying all the new Lego games because for a while, like, what was it? A friend of mine introduced me to Lego Star Wars, and then like we played the original trilogy, and then we got the Clone Wars game. We got Lego Batman and Lego Batman 2. I love Lego Batman 2. I think that's probably my favorite of all the Lego games I've played, other than Lego Star Wars, the complete saga, or the original trilogy. But yeah, I think Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga is fun. Like I said, it takes a lot of getting used to because of the third-person perspective the game is in now. It's a lot more enhanced in regards to the graphics. Like, they actually really polished this game. It looks really good. I know that there were a lot of behind-the-scenes issues in regards to people being overworked and the game being rushed out. I really hope those people are doing well now. But they did a fantastic job nonetheless. I think it's a fantastic game. I love the fact that they even have a mumble mode where you can have that turned on. So instead of having like fully voiced cutscenes and stuff like that, they actually have a mode where they kind of mumble like they do in the original or the older Lego games, because I think starting with Lego Batman 2, I think that was the first game to introduce voice acting, full voice acting to those games. And I think ever since, all the Lego games have been like that. But yeah, I really enjoy it. I think the DLC is fun as well. All the additional characters they've added, like, characters from the Clone Wars and the Mandalorian and the Bad Batch and the other extended universe characters that they've added outside of the Skywalker saga movies. I think they're all great, and it's a lot of fun. I have to go back and finish it, but when I do, I'll let you guys know on like Twitter or something. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. I also picked up Kirby and the Forgotten Land this year on the Switch, and it's the first 3D platformer for Kirby, I think, and it's actually really fun. I haven't really played the game too much. I played it more around the time it came out, but I enjoy it for what I did play. Yeah, it's really fun. It sticks to the basic Kirby formula, of course, while also adding some new features. Like the mouthful mode, I think is really hilarious. Like the fact that you can just eat a car and become the car, I think is a little silly, but it's just right up the Kirby alley, I guess. As Kirby as you can really get, in all honesty. Yeah, they're really good at coming up with like new shit. Sometimes, and when they do, it's like really great. But yeah. Yeah, this is a fun Kirby game. I don't really have much to say about it. I just really enjoy it from what I played. Like I said, I never beat the game, but I did like it from what I did play. Nintendo Switch Sports also came out this year. It's so weird because I feel like that stuff came out so long ago, but no, it was this year. This was kind of a long year, but also really short at the same time. It's about freaking time we got a Wii Sports successor on the Switch. I feel like that should have been a given. But at the same time, I haven't like gone back to it. I played it a lot when it came out. I really enjoyed it. I just haven't really gotten a chance to really play it again with a group of friends or anything. I think the selection of sports is really great. I love the addition of badminton and soccer. I think those are awesome additions to this game. I'm not a big fan of the whole new avatar system, though. I think they should have just stuck with the Miis. And you could be like, oh yeah, there are Miis in the game, but it's like, no, it's just a Mii head on the new avatar. Like those aren't straight up Miis like we had in Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resort. We got to go back to basics here. That's what people are nostalgic for with Nintendo Switch Sports, and now you got this new avatar thing, and I don't like them. I'm sorry. I know there are people that like them. I don't like them personally. I'm not the biggest fan. But yeah, I'm hoping they add baseball and boxing because then it'll feel like the original Wii Sports to the best that it can be. I'm really hoping for those really soon. I will definitely be going back to Nintendo Switch Sports once those are added. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that. And then in regards to the last game, I actually have like really full thoughts on. I unfortunately haven't beaten it yet, but I gotta talk about Sonic Frontiers because this honestly has been I like I said haven't beaten it yet. I'm only on the second world, but I when I was playing it, I wasn't able to put it down. I was hooked, and I really got to go back to it. I'm probably gonna do that once this episode's all said and done. But yeah, Sonic Frontiers is probably the most fun modern Sonic game that I've played since Sonic Generations, and that came out in 2011. So over 10 years ago at this point, the last really good modern Sonic game came out, at least in my opinion. I don't count like spin-offs like racing games or anything. Lost World, I was not the biggest fan of. And then like Sonic Forces, I feel like could have been so much better. I feel like it was too short. Sonic Mania, I feel like really made up for it though, and obviously I don't count Mania because it's like a classic Sonic game in the modern era. But Frontiers is so good, and I was really worried like midway through the year because the gameplay they were showing looked really choppy and all sorts of stuff. And while the game is a little choppy in some parts, it's not a broken game by any means. It is truly such a breath of fresh air for Sonic games. Like I was like mind blown. I was like, dude, like why is this actually like really good? There's a lot of like really new there's a lot of really good new mechanics that they've introduced in regards to Sonic's moveset, his plethora of special moves he can do with combos and all sorts of shit like that. I'm like, Jesus, like this is like some next level shit. And it's an open world game, which I mean we've gotten a lot of the last couple of years, and I wouldn't expect to see an open world Sonic game, but I'm certainly not complaining. This was incredible. I really got to go back and play it. Oh my god. And there's even more content coming out too. They have more DLC releasing with like a new story and new playable characters, new specialty things you can do, and all sorts of stuff like that. Like I'm really looking forward to the future of this game. And the soundtrack, holy shit. Like in the last 48 hours especially, I noticed that they dropped the soundtrack on streaming. So I've been listening to Undefeatable on loop for a little while. Dude, they got Kellen Quinn from Sleeping with Sirens to do 3 vocal tracks for the new Sonic game. They have metal in the new Sonic game, and it goes like crazy. It's so good. Like Undefeatable is catchy as fuck. It goes way too hard than it needs to be. But I don't care. It's incredible. I love it. I'm just so happy that like I'm actually enjoying a Sonic game again. And like I haven't had this feeling, at least about a modern one, for over 10 years. And now in like this new era that we're living in, where there's all sorts of new crossovers with different mediums and all sorts of things. I feel like anything is possible at this point, with how lenient a lot of companies have become to collaborating with all sorts of different types of genres and things like that, all sorts of different IPs collaborating in so many different ways, movies with shows, shows with movies, games with music, and all sorts of stuff like that. This is a prime example of we're living in the future where Sonic music is metal and it's incredible. That's my thoughts on Sonic Frontiers so far. I love it, and I want to keep playing it, so I'm probably going to do that once I'm done with this. As for the rest of the video game stuff, there were some games I went back to a bit this year that are a bit older. I dabbled a bit in Fortnite again this year with some friends, and I hadn't played it in so long, nor had I really kept up with it. And then I saw like the amount of collaborations that have been introduced to this game, especially in the last year. This year alone, we got some more Star Wars stuff. We got Dragon Ball characters and My Hero Academia characters added to Fortnite. Fucking Indiana Jones, and even some older stuff like Rick and Morty and Naruto, and like a lot of the Marvel characters. Like that really was like holy shit. Like this, like Fortnite is like a prime example of we live in the future where you have all of these IPs in the same game, and I don't know. It's really strange, but I think it's a good thing. On surface, if you told someone 10 years ago that all these characters would be in the same video game, they'd laugh in your face. But here we are, it's a little fun. I'm not really that great at Fortnite, but I had a little bit of fun with it this year. I thought I would bring that up. I loved the idea of the Dragon Ball collaboration. I thought that was really genius, especially because they added 4 characters. Like even Bulma was thrown in the game. That was pretty crazy. And then Smash Brothers and Mario Kart. I played a little bit of Smash this year. Of course, no new content this year as they're done with the DLC characters at this point. I talked about that in last year's episode, rounding up the year. But Mario Kart got some cool new stuff this year. I have not played the very new tracks, like the Wave 3, but I played the first 2 waves of the Booster Course Pass, and they're a lot of fun. I don't like the idea of the fact that they're not up to par graphically, stylistically with the base game stuff. But I mean, if it gives me a reason to play Mario Kart, I'll do it. And they have all of these older courses from previous Mario Kart games that I've grown to love for many years, and now I can play them on my Switch, and I think that's great. So honestly, I don't know, like I was a little mad about it in the beginning, but at the same time, it's like, dude, this game came out in 2014. Like, let them just milk it as much as they can. But I'm also upset that there's no Mario Kart 9, but that's for another day. And then I have a couple games here that I got recently that I haven't touched yet or really delved into too much at all yet, but I thought I would mention them. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, the new Pokemon games. I got Violet. I haven't really played it too much yet, but I was at the midnight launch in New York City for that. I got to hang out with a bunch of Nintendo YouTubers and all sorts of stuff like that. If you want to go check out my vlog from that, it's on my main YouTube channel. If you go to youtube.com/@JimmyMullen, you can watch that. And I also I got some games for Christmas. I don't have them in front of me, unfortunately. I should have thought to grab them, but Pac-Man World Repack, Splatoon 3, and Pokemon Legends Arceus are games that I got for Christmas, and I have not touched them yet, but they are on the bucket list for 2023. Not bucket list, because I hope I'm not kicking the bucket in the next year, but the list for stuff to play in 2023. Those games are on there. So I thought I would mention them. I got an amiibo here, like for Splatoon 3, because I collect most of the amiibos. So I thought I would just throw it in here because I thought it looked nice. But yeah, no, I have not played Splatoon 3, unfortunately. So yeah, that's it for video games. There were a lot of really cool video games that came out this year that I wanted to talk about. Like I said, I didn't delve into everything. So of course there are plenty of examples of games like, I don't know, Elden Ring. I didn't play that, so I have nothing to say about it. I know nothing about it. I'm sorry to anyone that was looking forward to hearing me talk about Elden Ring. I haven't played it. As for television, most, if not all of my shows that I watched were on Disney Plus and were either related to Marvel or Star Wars. As I'm looking now, the only exception to this is Stranger Things Season 4. So we'll start out with the Book of Boba Fett, which started at the very end of last year and finished in February, at least for the first season. I don't know if we're getting a season 2. But other than episodes 4 and 5, I feel like that show was a little underwhelming. While things like Cad Bane were really cool, and even seeing Luke Skywalker again and him training Grogu and Luke Skywalker interacting with Ahsoka Tano was like really awesome, I don't know. It felt like a Mandalorian season 2.5, and I feel like the focus on Boba Fett was really tarnished just to highlight a lot of stuff that connects to the Mandalorian, and I don't know if I was really happy about that. Don't get me wrong. Episodes 4 and 5 of the Book of Boba Fett are some of the best pieces of Star Wars ever, but the fact that it's a show about Boba Fett and those 2 episodes barely, if not at all, have Boba Fett in them, really goes to show that their priorities were not in the best places with that show, and I feel like they kind of just made it just so they could ride on the name of Boba Fett alone. But I mean, I'm not complaining. Those episodes are really good. But yeah, honestly, some of the best pieces of Star Wars we've gotten since the Disney acquisition, and specifically episodes 4 and 5 of the Book of Boba Fett. If you haven't seen them, go watch them. They're really good, trust me. Moon Knight was the first of the MCU series to come out on Disney Plus this year, and I'm sure honestly it was my favorite one of the 3. You can't really go wrong with Moon Knight in comparison to She-Hulk and Ms. Marvel. Not to say those shows are bad, but Moon Knight was easily the best one of the 3. I think it's pretty up there. WandaVision has pretty much been my favorite MCU show this whole time, but Moon Knight is pretty up there with it. It's a really interesting concept for a superhero, and I went in not really knowing much about the character at all. Honestly, I don't think I had even heard of Moon Knight prior to becoming a fan of the MCU. Oscar Isaac does a fantastic job as the character. I love Oscar Isaac in everything I've seen him in. I loved him in the Star Wars sequels. I loved him in Ex Machina and some of the other stuff I've seen him in. But yeah, he does a fantastic job as Mark Spector and Stephen Grant. It's a really interesting concept, and this was the first show to not really connect with anything else in regards to an already established character. This was all completely fresh for the MCU, and I thought it was really great. Obi-Wan Kenobi was the other Star Wars series I watched in full this year. Andor also came out this year, but I have not finished that yet, so I'm not going to talk about it today. But oh my god, Obi-Wan Kenobi was great. Almost all the way through. There were a couple issues I had with the show in regards to how silly it was at points, especially in the first episode with the chase scene with Leia getting kidnapped. It I couldn't take it seriously at all. The way that was shot, I was like, what the fuck am I looking at? This is really silly. Excellence overall, though. Aside from that, the two lightsaber battles that took place between Obi-Wan and Vader were absolutely phenomenal. And even bringing back Hayden Christensen alone as Darth Vader was enough to sell this show for me. And I think with what we got, I think it's pretty satisfying. I feel like it could have been better at some parts. I think it focuses a lot on the dynamic between Leia and Obi-Wan, which, I mean, you could say what you want about it. If it even, like, lines up with the events of the original Star Wars trilogy or whatever it may be. I don't care. I just really enjoyed it. And having the flashback scene of the training between Anakin and Obi-Wan was amazing as well. And we're even getting Hayden back again in the Ahsoka series in 2023. So, yeah, there's a lot happening with Star Wars, and it's a lot of good things happening with Star Wars. So I'm all here for it, and I really enjoyed Obi-Wan. As for Miss Marvel, another MCU show to come out this year, I enjoyed it for what it was. Like I said with Moon Knight, I wasn't too familiar with the character before diving into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but because of that, I wasn't too really offended or anything by the power change or anything like that, because I know they did change her powers for the MCU in reference to the fact that I think she was an Inhuman in the comics, but she's going to be something else in the MCU. I don't really know. That stuff didn't really bother me. I just wanted to watch a good show, and I think I got that with Miss Marvel. It's pretty good. It's a nice short 6 episodes. It's a lot of world building, a lot of introductory to tons of supernatural things in the MCU in regards to stuff that happened years and years and years ago, building the timeline, expanding it, and all sorts of stuff like that. So, I don't really have much to say about it. I thought it was really good. And I'm really excited to see Kamala Khan in the Marvels. It's actually making me look forward to this movie a lot more. Stranger Things 4. I'm going to talk about that real quick. I didn't watch Stranger Things until 2021. I watched the first 3 seasons practically back to back to back, and I watched season 4 as it came out. As they did release it in 2 volumes. They released, I think, like the first 7 episodes on day 1. I think it was like end of May, and then the second wave was in the beginning of July. That was the final 2 episodes, and the final episode nearly being feature length. These episodes were great overall. I love all of the new characters that were added, especially Eddie Munson. And he alone sold this show for me, like this season in particular. Honestly, I'm glad this new season lived up to the hype. Definitely my favorite of the seasons thus far. I think they've honestly gotten better and better. Actually, I think season 2 is a bit of a step down from the first season. Not to say it's bad, but there is that one episode of season 2 that kind of dwindles it all for me. But season 3 was definitely a big step up, and then season 4 upped it even more. So I'm hoping with this final season that's coming up in the next couple of years that it lives up and really has a nice epic conclusion to this IP, because some people will say it's gone on too long. I don't really think so. I just love it. And I'm really excited to see what happens in the future with these characters. I know we're going to be getting some kind of time jump. I also dressed up as Argyle from Stranger Things for Halloween this year, so I like the show enough to make it a part of my Halloween celebration for this year, which, I mean, Halloween has been a holiday that I haven't really been able to really go all out for in years and years, but I've started to enjoy it a lot more, so... like there were a couple of years where, you're in that awkward stage where, like, you're not a kid, so you can't go trick-or-treating. And then, like, you don't really have friends or, like, have an invite to a party, or if there even is a party, especially with the pandemic the last couple of years. So, this year was fun. So, this show has definitely had an impact on me in regards to merchandise, because there's a shit ton of it. And also just... I don't know, just the vibes of it. It's just I learned a lot about some new 80s music that I hadn't heard before, or rediscovering music. I don't think I had ever heard Running Up That Hill, but
it's been like everywhere throughout this whole year. Top the charts again, which is crazy. It makes you think, like, are movies and shows gonna continue to do this with old songs and have them top the charts? I feel like it's gonna be a trend going forward. But yeah, I really enjoyed Stranger Things season 4. There were some parts where I feel like it dragged on a little bit, especially with Hopper scenes. But overall, I really enjoyed it, and I'm really hyped for the final season, whenever that ends up coming out, probably like 2024 or 2025 or something like that. And then finally for shows, I have She-Hulk Attorney at Law, at least shows that I watched in full. And this one was pretty good. It's definitely the most unique out of all of the live-action MCU shows we've gotten thus far. Centers around Jennifer Walters, who is half human, half Hulk, except she can actually control herself for the most part, despite, Bruce Banner not being able to balance being the Hulk and Bruce Banner, because the Hulk was a raging green monster. And while She-Hulk is also that, she's more human in regards to she can control herself, and she's a lawyer, so she's like, really into that stuff. And I don't know. It was a good show. I really enjoyed it. Seeing Daredevil was really cool. And while I have not seen the Netflix show yet, I'm definitely going to be watching it this upcoming year in anticipation for Daredevil Born Again. Watching him in She-Hulk as well as Spider-Man No Way Home has me really excited for the future of this character. And even some world building with the Hulk in regards to post-Endgame Hulk, and setting up maybe a World War Hulk or something. I don't know what exactly they're doing, but it's looking pretty crazy. But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it. And I'm excited to see what they do with this character next. Maybe she'll pop up in the new Captain America. There are possibilities of that, supposedly. As for some other shows that I wanted to mention, but I didn't either watch or I started and I didn't finish. I started Andor. I watched like the first 3 episodes when they dropped on Disney Plus. I also wanted to mention Peacemaker, Star Wars Tales of the Jedi, and Sonic Prime. I have not watched these yet, but I will be doing so in early 2023. As for music, there weren't that many new songs that I listened to this year. I'm definitely someone who listens to a lot of the same shit over and over. But there were a couple of highlights I wanted to talk about, like The Weeknd's Dawn FM, which came out at the beginning of this year. That was the first solo of the year. I talked about that album, actually, so we're coming full circle here. I really enjoyed that one. It's probably not, I don't think it's my favorite Weeknd album by any means, but some highlights of it were Gasoline, How Do I Make You Love Me, Out of Time, and Here We Go Again with Tyler, the Creator. These were really great ones. 12 Carat Toothache by Post Malone was really great. Wrapped Around Your Finger came out at a very perfect time for me. That's all I will say for that. Not to mention the collaborations on it with Doja Cat, Gunna, The Kid Laroi, The Weeknd, Roddy Ricch, and a couple of other artists thrown in there. This was a really good project. Definitely not my favorite Post Malone album. I will say Beer Bongs and Bentleys probably takes the cake for that, because that album is just really, really good. And then I also love Hollywood's Bleeding, but for different reasons. I just love the amount of collaborations on that one. But yeah, 12 Carat Toothache, while not my favorite Post album, still a really good one. Drake's Honestly Nevermind was also another letdown compared to Certified Lover, along with Certified Lover Boy. Not to say that like it's terrible, but it's just, I feel like it could be so much better. I know Drake has put out better music before, and there were a couple good ones on this one, but the album as a whole, I feel like drags a lot. Like it's not, like my favorite Drake album. Like not as many memorable songs on it by any means. But there were some highlights like Massive and Sticky and Jimmy Cooks with 21 Savage. Like those were good ones. Charlie Puth dropped another album this year, his first one in like 4 years. This one is called Charlie, so it's self-titled. And there are a lot of very relatable songs to me, but I feel like a lot of that's on purpose. Maybe it's just because I dealt with a lot of change this year in regards to how I view myself as a person, and how I should, take better care of myself in who I choose to spend time with. But yeah, most of the songs sound a little formulaic. They all have the same kind of tempo to them, which is kind of a repeated thing I've seen with Charlie Puth songs, but I don't really care. I really enjoyed this one. And yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. I did like songs like "I Don't Think That I Like Her" and "That's Hilarious" and "No More Drama." Those were pretty relatable to you, boy. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. I also listened to Joji's Smithereens, which was a big letdown in regards to the fact that there were like no songs on it. It's been like 2 years since a new Joji project has dropped, and he didn't even write most of these. So it's like, is this even a Joji album? People are saying he's just trying to get out of his record label or something. I don't know what the deal is, but I feel like he could be putting so much more into it. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on it. I thought I would just throw my thoughts on that in there. I think Ballads 1 is still his best project to date. In regards to the Joji stuff, I'm not really counting everything that came before he was a mainstream artist. Drake and 21 Savage's Her Loss was definitely a better Drake project. Was definitely the better of the two Drake projects that came out this year. A lot more repeated listens for this album, especially Circo Loco and all the other ones on there. I'm sorry, I can't remember the names of them off the top of my head. But my brother actually, fun fact, you know how Spotify has Wrapped, Apple Music has a similar thing. It came out a week after this new Drake and 21 Savage album came out. My brother had already listened to the album over 200 times, and it was his number one album of the year. So I guess you can see how much he really liked the album. The last album I listened to in full this past year was Heroes and Villains by Metro Boomin, which was a really good follow-up to Not All Heroes Wear Capes, which came out in 2018. And it was actually pretty symbolic for me because that album dropped during the beginning of my senior year. And this one drops in the beginning of my brother's senior year. And having him blast Overdue and then Don't Come Out the House right after in his car with his friends, and I'm in there as well, and just hearing that, it's like, wow, I was your age when this album dropped, and now a new album comes out, and now you listen to Metro Spider and then I Can't Save You back to back. They transition into each other really well, and yeah, I just thought that was really cool. So really good album from Metro Boomin. I think Not All Heroes Wear Capes is a better album personally, not to say this one is bad by any means, but it's good for other reasons. Some other albums I listened to, not in their entirety, but I did listen to a couple of them. Not to say anything against them, it's just that I just didn't. No real reason. Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers by Kendrick Lamar. I Know Nego features new tracks from Tyler, the Creator, A$AP Rocky, Pusha T, and Pharrell producing a couple of the tracks. Demons Protected by Angels is a new album from Nav that came out. I listened to a couple tracks from that. Lil Uzi Vert dropped a new EP called Red and White. SZA dropped her new album, SOS. I still have to finish that one. And of course, my friend Liam, a.k.a. Scheme Liam, dropped a couple tracks this year. You should go listen to them. They're on streaming platforms everywhere. And some singles, Late to the Party featuring NBA Youngboy by Lil Nas X. Also, Lil Nas X dropping Star Walkin', which was the League of Legends World's anthem, even though the song had nothing to do with League. It was just a cross-collaboration thing, I guess. Pharrell started producing more tracks. Instead of being a singer on them, he just credits himself as the top artist. And at first glance, I'm like, oh my God, there's a big collab with Pharrell. And then I'm like, wait, where was Pharrell throughout that whole thing? But I'm like, oh, he just produced the beat. So recently he dropped Cash In, Cash Out with 21 Savage and Tyler, the Creator, as well as Down in Atlanta with Travis Scott. And those are both really good songs. You should definitely go listen to them. Lil Yachty with the memes coming out with Poland, and Lil Uzi Vert dropping Just Wanna Rock in the last month or so. Really good song there. Fetty Wap came back into the light after all these years with a song called Sweet Yams, which I put on my Christmas playlist this year. So yeah, this was a pretty good year for music. Definitely a lot I missed out on. If anyone has any suggestions for any music you want me to listen to, or anything I missed out on this year, anything in general, let me know in the comments. There's plenty of stuff I missed out on throughout this year. I'm not even going to hide that. Now, in regards to movies, like I said, very minimal with everything I watched this year. But I actually only watched 12 new releases this year, so I'm not even going to bother doing a top 10 because my number 10 pick is Lightyear, and I definitely wouldn't put that in my top 10. Not to say that's a bad movie. It's just not that good. It's okay. So I have my 12 movies here on my Letterboxd profile. So I'm just gonna go through them real quick. On the bottom of my list is Morbius, which I saw opening night, and it was bad. It's not very good. I just love the fact that there was so much hype around this movie in the sense that no one was gonna go see it, and they called it a Morbius sweep, and that it was gonna become the best grossing movie of all time. And then it wasn't, and then the internet gaslit Sony into re-releasing it in theaters because everyone was like, "Oh my god, I can't wait to see Morbius," and then they did that, and then no one saw the movie, so it bombed twice at the box office. So, yeah, that was a fun time. The movie itself is pretty lifeless. There's not much that goes on, and it kind of ends abruptly. Plus, it sets up a post-credit scene with the Vulture from Spider-Man: Homecoming, so it makes the whole multiverse thing that was introduced in No Way Home a little bit of a confusing mess. Because why did someone from the MCU dimension get transported into this one? It literally makes no sense. And it probably won't even get set up either because Morbius was a box office failure. So, yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on with that. But, yeah, it's definitely a prime example of Sony marketing this movie like crazy with Spider-Man stuff and then taking all of that out because that's exactly what they did. And, yeah, this movie was just an absolute mess. Thor: Love and Thunder is next up. I've watched this movie again since my video back in like September talking about it. Honestly, I don't like this movie. I'm sorry. I wanted to love this movie so much. It was like one of my most anticipated movies of this year because of how much I loved Thor Ragnarok and how much I loved that Taika Waititi was making a Marvel movie. Like I was like, this is gonna be amazing, and Ragnarok was amazing, but then we got Love and Thunder, and it focused a little too much on the jokes. There was like no room for breathing. It was just nothing but joke after joke, and most of them didn't land. It came off as kind of cringy and just not all there. And it's a bit lower on my MCU list now. I'm really disappointed by that because I was really looking forward to this movie, and it just did not deliver. And that's a shame because I really wanted to enjoy it, but it just couldn't do it for me. After that though is Lightyear. It's okay. I definitely don't think we needed this movie. Disney also likes to ignore the Buzz Lightyear of Star Command cartoon, which I think is leagues better than this movie. I feel like if they had also made this movie more about Buzz and the granddaughter of his old partner instead of just that whole ragtag team of people, I feel like there would have been a lot more focus. Plus, the whole reveal with Zurg and all that stuff, kind of makes Toy Story 2 a little confusing. I'm not really sure how to feel about this movie. It's a little all over the place. I don't mind Chris Evans as Buzz Lightyear. That's not even my problem. I'm not even mad that Tim Allen, didn't voice him. Like, there's a lot of people that say, oh, he should have been Tim Allen. But at the same time, you want a younger person to play a younger version of the character. That's just kind of how it goes. And also, Chris Evans is more marketable than Tim Allen. Let's be honest with ourselves here. But yeah, besides all that, like I think it's just an okay movie. I did not go to theaters to see it. Not anything against the movie. It's just that I didn't have time, and by the time I wanted to go see it, it was already dropping on Disney Plus. So I just waited, yeah. So that's Lightyear. Then I watched the new Blue's Clues movie on Paramount Plus because Blue's Clues was a huge part of my early childhood, and I wanted to see Steve and Joe in the movie, and it was great. It was everything I could have wanted, and even some interesting references to the Blues Room spinoff, which I was not expecting, but I will gladly take. And yeah, that's it. All I have to really say. It's a wholesome watch. If you have Paramount Plus, you should check it out, especially if you grew up on Blue's Clues. It's a great watch. Next up, I have Minions: The Rise of Gru. This one was a lot more surprising than what I had expected. I enjoy the first two Despicable Me movies. I love those movies. The third one's not so great, and the first Minions movie is pretty bad because you can only do so much with the Minions, and having an entire 90-minute movie focused on them was kind of dragging. So this movie was a bit of more of a balance between young Gru and the Minions, and I think it works pretty well for what it is. Not to say it's cinema, despite all of the people going in suits to go see this movie and it making a shit ton of money because of that. If that's the way movie theater visits are going to go from now on for new releases, if it keeps theaters open, then fuck it. I don't care. I just want to be able to go to a movie theater because at this point, it's kind of hard to do so. It's kind of hard to justify it now because of not only how expensive things are, but also just the amount of shit coming out and, you know, not wanting to spend that much money on tickets and theaters being a drive, not too many of them anymore. You know, I could go on, but yeah, Minions Rise of Gru is pretty good. It's all right. Like, it's not amazing, but it's better than the first Minions and better than Despicable Me 3, so I'll give it that. Actually, a really surprising movie this year that I watched was Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, and as someone who did not watch the original cartoon, I didn't really know much about the side characters, but I really love the premise of this, along with it mixing tons of different types of animation into live action, not only 2D animation, but also 3D animation, and doing a bit of comparison between the two, because one of them is 2D and the other one is 3D. And there's this whole story about bootleg movies and characters being kidnapped and being brought into bootleg movies and stuff like that. It's very self-aware. And that's what I love about it. I think it's great for what it is, and I like that kind of stuff. I want to see more of that kind of stuff on Disney Plus. So I'm really grateful for the existence of this movie. Up next, I have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which is probably my second favorite of the 3 MCU movies this year. Not to say this one's bad. There's a lot of people saying they didn't like this one very much, or something along the lines of that. I enjoyed it. I love Sam Raimi as a director, as he was the director of the original Spider-Man trilogy. And while I have yet to see his other works, I think he did a great job with the Spider-Man stuff, and I think he did great with this. I think this is a pretty good sequel for Doctor Strange. Honestly, I wish they would have focused more on the multiverse instead of just staying in one and then doing like a little slideshow of a bunch of different multiverses and things like that. I wish they would have focused more on traveling through different universes, but it is what it is. I guess you kind of, when you have a title like Multiverse of Madness, I guess you expect more out of that, but whatever. It's still a good movie. And even, having John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic in there was a nice touch, from another universe. I think this was pretty great overall. Having Charles Xavier, Patrick Stewart come back was really great as well. And I can't wait to see, hopefully, the rise of X-Men and Fantastic Four after this, because now we've kind of introduced those characters. While granted in another universe, they are coming. We do have a Fantastic Four movie coming up, so we shall see what goes on with that. And then we have Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which is my 5th out of 12 ranked. This is my favorite MCU movie of the year. I think it did a great job in regards to honoring Chadwick Boseman to the best of their ability with what they had to work with. I think they did well. And I did an entire discussion on the movie back in November. So if you want to go check that out, it's episode number 49. But I will say, though, it's a really great film. I think with what they had to work with, I think they did a great job. And I'm really excited to see what the future of a lot of these characters are. I think Namor is a great antagonist. And I just really like this movie. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. Turning Red was also really great. It's a great coming-of-age story. This was the better of the 2 Pixar movies to come out this year. It's a really big shame that they didn't just drop this in theaters. I think that was one of the worst decisions they could have made with this movie. I think it would have done a lot better if more people had known about it. But this was a really good one. I really enjoyed watching it. And then Sonic 2 was amazing. This first Sonic movie was kind of iffy. Like, people were wondering if it was even going to be good. And then we had the whole controversy with the design and all that stuff. And then once that movie came out and people enjoyed it, they were like, all right, now we can just go all out and embrace the games and all sorts of stuff like that. And that's what they did with Sonic 2. And it's amazing. Tails and Knuckles are fantastic. Jim Carrey as Robotnik is menacing as he should be in like the best fucking ways. And even setting up the third movie in the post credits has me really fucking hyped for the future of this movie franchise. If you had told me that the Sonic live-action movie franchise was going to be a huge success, I would have laughed in your face a couple of years ago. But now, this is like the best case scenario. I've as a huge Sonic fan, as I've been a Sonic fan my whole life, I've been sorely disappointed for years in the Sonic content we've been getting. It's never been consistent. Most have been misses. We've had a couple good ones, but not amazing ones. I mean, other than Sonic Mania, there hasn't really been much great Sonic stuff to come out in like the last decade. But the movies are a testament to that. And then Sonic Frontiers, like I talked about before. So yeah, I'm really hyped for the third movie, and the second one was really great. I even bought the steelbook because I was like, look, they're paying homage to the Sonic 2 game cover. How can I not get this? So yeah, and then number 2 is Dragon Ball Super Superhero. This was an amazing movie, pretty much all the way through. It's not my favorite of the new Dragon Ball movies, but it's still really up there, especially with the new forms and all that stuff, and the fight scenes and bringing back elements of the Cell saga and the androids was really cool. Expanding on a lot of stuff we already knew prior and bringing up old stuff that was kind of left, not really answered or even explored, expanding on stuff we knew about prior that we may have forgotten about or anything, I think was really great. I also like that there was a time jump in the span of Dragon Ball Super Broly and this movie. Seeing Goten and Trunks aged up a bit was pretty cool. Even Pan aged up. And seeing Gohan actually fight and give his all was amazing. And he really shined in this movie. I really enjoyed it. It was fantastic. Also, that one scene with Beerus was pretty great. I will say the least. And then my number one movie of the year was The Batman with Robert Pattinson, directed by Matt Reeves. That man did a fantastic job with this movie. And with it being a 3-hour movie, yeah, it's pretty long, but it feels like a 2-hour movie. That's how good it is. This world building, all the stuff that they set up in this movie, and they've even announced a Penguin spinoff show that's going to have a bunch of notable people in it, especially the mother from How I Met Your Mother. She's going to be great in that. There's also a sequel in the works as well, and it's all well deserved. This movie was fantastic all the way through. I'm a bit upset that this movie didn't get topped by any other movie on my ranked list, but at the same time, I only watched 12 new releases this year, so that's kind of my fault. But yeah, I really enjoyed The Batman. I think it's on par with The Dark Knight in terms of how good it is, and like I'm being completely serious on that. I think it's fantastic, and I can't wait to see more of this world. It's just so wonderful. As for movies I missed this year, there were quite a few, so I thought I would list them here. These are movies that I am interested in watching, but I just unfortunately missed out on this year. Scream 5, Uncharted, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Jurassic World Dominion, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, Elvis, Bullet Train, Prey, Nope, Top Gun Maverick, Don't Worry Darling, Smile, Halloween Ends, Glass Onion, Avatar The Way of Water, X and Pearl, both starring Jenna Ortega, both of the new Pinocchio movies, although I've of course heard the Disney one is pretty bad. Death on the Nile, Black Adam, The Adam Project. Those two are not related. I just happened to list them next to each other. The Lost City with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum. Jackass Forever. Amsterdam, Babylon, Violent Night, The Bob's Burgers movie, Hocus Pocus 2, Weird, the Al Yankovic biopic, The Bad Guys, Disenchanted, DC League of Super Pets, and Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I've heard the Puss in Boots movie is actually really good, like on par with like Shrek 1 and 2. So I'm like really hyped to watch that movie when I get the chance. And also, I'll mention it real quick because I haven't been able to. The Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special is amazing. If you haven't seen it, it's gotten me way more amped for the third film. And it's an absolute must watch. Before the holiday season completely ends, go do yourself a favor and watch this holiday special. It's wonderful. Please go watch it. And yeah, that's it for the movies. In regards to some other stuff I'll throw in here, I went to some live events this year. I saw Murr live for my 21st birthday. It was the night beforehand, so I couldn't drink there because I technically wasn't 21 yet. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was kind of last minute, so the seats weren't the greatest. But I mean, hey, I was still really amped to be there, and having Joe Gatto come out as a surprise guest was really cool. Seeing Murr go outside and talk to people out in the streets was really funny. Because they did like a live Impractical Jokers where they were telling him to say things and all that. It was great. It was a really good time. And then I went to a Hatebreed concert with my friends Thomas and Jake. That was a lot of fun. Very interesting first experience going to a metal show. It was definitely one for the books. And yeah, while the amount of new things I missed was pretty heavy, I do plan on catching up to as many things as I can going into the new year. If you'd like to stay up to date on all the new movies I watch, feel free to check out my Letterboxd page. I'm going to leave a link in the description. And yeah, there's a lot to look forward to in 2023, not only in regards to new music, movies, and TV and games, but also new episodes coming up for the podcast. I have a lot in store. I'm going to be doing deep dives on new releases from the MCU, along with the Mario movie and all that stuff. And the next solo episode you guys will see will be a list of my most anticipated projects of 2023. So I hope you guys are excited for that. That'll be probably the first episode of the year, if not a guest episode, but it will be the next solo one. So whenever you guys will see that, that will be it. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up. I hope you guys had a very happy and safe 2022. Hope you had an amazing holiday season. Hope it was great. Hope you got everything you wanted. If you celebrate a holiday where you get gifts. And yeah, that's going to wrap it up. One more thing, actually, I got a Blue Yeti microphone, so the remote episodes are going to sound a lot better from my perspective once I get those set up. The next one you will see will still have my old Blue Snowball mic because that one's already pre-recorded, but everything after that one, I'll be using this. So just thought I'd let you guys know about that. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of me talking about the stuff I enjoyed throughout the year. And yeah, be sure to follow the podcast on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. If you're listening on audio platforms, make sure you write a review and leave a rating. Tell me what you think. If you're on Spotify, let me know what you thought of the episode in the Q&A tab. And yeah, subscribe, hit the bell, like the video, leave a comment. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. And I'll catch you on the next one. Take it easy. Peace.